고무장갑 다 똑같다고? 아니, 러버랩은 달라. 내 손인 듯 하루 종일 편하게. 슬림한 두께로 낀 듯 안 낀 듯 가볍게. 튼튼하니까 걱정 없이. 두 가지 길이로 다양하게 쓰는 러버랩으로 만드는 편리한 일상. 껴보면 달라. 러버랩 고무장갑. 러버랩.
In our headlines on this Tuesday, January 7th, here in South Korea. The first cabinet meeting of the new year was held with acting President Choi Sang-mok touching upon the grave matters facing the nation as it seeks a path forward amid political instability and economic uncertainty. Across the border in North Korea, Kim Jong-un claims the regime's new intermediate-range ballistic missile tipped with a hypersonic warhead will serve to, quote, contain any rival in the Pacific region. Meanwhile, 7 new Korean words have been included in the Oxford English Dictionary, including hyung, 막내, 달고나, and more, in yet another indication of the tangible influence of K-culture. Acting President Choi Sang-mok presided over his first cabinet meeting of the new year, underscoring the need for stability and solidarity amid these somber political circumstances and the presence of economic headwinds. Our top office correspondent Kim Do-yeon reports.
At the first cabinet meeting of 2025 on Tuesday, acting president and deputy prime minister for finance Choi Sang-mok emphasized a fast recovery for the nation's economy to all participants. He said all government resources need to be focused on reviving the economy as it has been hit even harder by the political situation.
Above all, speed is crucial. All ministries should immediately commence budget execution for projects essential to revitalizing the livelihood economy. Additionally, please implement measures to boost domestic demand, including consumption, construction, and tourism, as well as regional economies, with a strong sense of urgency.
He also noted the need to maintain growth in exports, which are the pillar of the nation's economy, requesting the ministries for industry and SMEs to work with businesses. Choi laid out his plans for briefings to him by each ministry. He said this year's briefings need to be different from routine ones when it comes to their urgency, solutions, and pace of execution. In other words, instead of briefing what they're going to do, the ministries need to lay out solutions to current problems. Choi also emphasized the need for government to be prepared for the new U.S. administration.
Our businesses are deeply concerned about external credibility and any shifts in trade dynamics following the inauguration of the Trump administration. Through this year's ministerial briefings, we must present practical solutions to address these pressing issues and dispel such concerns effectively.
2025 is also the 80th anniversary of Korea's liberation from Japanese colonial rule. Choi emphasized that the current crisis will also be overcome as well, while stating that all public officials need to fear the public's and history's judgment and make the right choices for the country. Kim Do-yeon, Arirang News.
And a pre-trial hearing will take place next Monday afternoon, January 13th, at the Constitutional Court, ahead of an impeachment trial against Prime Minister Han Duck-soo. Now, his trial comes as the opposition-led parliament last month voted in favor of an impeachment motion against him after he called for bipartisan agreement on the candidates to fill the earlier vacancies at the Constitutional Court. The ruling party, for its part, has since filed an injunction against the parliamentary vote, which was passed with a simple majority as opposed to the party's argument that a two-thirds majority is needed, as Mr. Han was an acting president at the time of the vote. And South Korea has cast doubt on North Korea's claims of tangible advancements in its missile technology following a test launch earlier on Monday. Our correspondent Kim Jung-sil explains.
North Korea has claimed that Monday's missile reached speeds of Mach 12 and traveled 1,500 kilometers before hitting a target in the open sea. However, South Korea's Joint Chiefs of Staff has questioned these claims, citing inconsistencies in the reported flight path and performance.
We believe North Korea's claims about the missile's flight distance and second apex altitude are likely exaggerated.
Colonel Lee added that North Korea is known for relying on propaganda and occasionally exaggerating its claims in official announcements. The JCS assessed that the missile flew around 1,100 kilometers without reaching a second apex. A second apex is a key characteristic often seen in hypersonic missiles. He added that the test appears to be in line with a hypersonic missile test conducted by the regime last April. The Ministry of Unification noted that this marks North Korea's sixth hypersonic missile test since 2021. A senior official suggested that Pyongyang's intent may be to assert its presence to the U.S. ahead of Donald Trump's inauguration in 2 weeks. The official also confirmed that Seoul is closely monitoring North Korea's Yongbyon nuclear facility following reports of possible reactivation. Earlier, state media reported that Kim Jong-un and his daughter Choi observed Monday's launch remotely, framing it as evidence of the regime's growing weapons capabilities. Kim stated that the goal is to position weapon systems that no one can counter as the core of the regime's strategic deterrence while strengthening its nuclear war deterrence. While Pyongyang insists its missile tests are defensive, Seoul has condemned them as destabilizing. Analysts say the launch signals North Korea's ability to strike U.S. territories like Guam while deliberately limiting the missile's range to manage tensions. Kim Jung-sil, Arirang News.
U.S. Ambassador to South Korea Philip Goldberg has stepped down from his post. Addressing members of the media at the airport earlier today, prior to his departure for the U.S., he also confirmed reports that Joseph Yun, a former special envoy on North Korea and a veteran diplomat, will be taking over the role of chargé d'affaires in a few days. With regard to the brief imposition of martial law here in South Korea on the evening of December 3rd, he simply claimed South Korea is a great democracy that will continue to function through difficult times. Goldberg served as the ambassador to Seoul for the past 2.5 years and is now retiring to end 36 years of a diplomatic career in the U.S. Foreign Service. And in the U.S., the Congress certified Republican Donald Trump's victory of the 2024 presidential election in a ceremonial event presided by Vice President Kamala Harris. Our Lee Soo-jin covers the event.
The votes for President of the United States are as follows. Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida has received 312 votes. Kamala D. Harris of the state of California has received 226 votes.
U.S. Congress on Monday local time formally certified incoming President Donald Trump's re-election in a special session presided over by none other than the outgoing Vice President and former presidential candidate Kamala Harris. The peaceful and rather uneventful certification, lasting around 30 minutes, saw both Democrats and Republicans rise in a standing ovation. It stood in stark contrast to 4 years ago when supporters of then-President Donald Trump stormed the Capitol in an effort to block the certification of the 2020 presidential election results. After the ceremony this year, Harris stressed the importance of upholding American democracy.
Well, today was obviously a very important day, and it was about what should be the norm and what the American people should be able to take for granted, which is that one of the most important pillars of our democracy is that there will be a peaceful transfer of power. And today, America's democracy stood.
Unlike Trump 4 years ago, Harris did not contest the results of the 2024 election and graciously accepted her defeat. Former Vice President Mike Pence wrote on X that Harris overseeing the certification of an election that she lost was particularly admirable. Pence, at the certification ceremony in 2021, resisted intense pressure from Trump and his supporters to overturn the results of the 2020 presidential election. The importance of democracy was also emphasized by President Biden in a Washington Post op-ed released the day before the certification ceremony, where he wrote that Americans should be glad to not see a repeat this year of what he called a shameful attack, and that the events of January 6, 2021 must not be forgotten. 이수진, Arirang News.
Meanwhile, in Canada, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has shared intentions to step down from his post and has suspended the parliament as his party seeks to select a new leader. Our Isingje reports.
Following years of declining support from the public, as well as his own caucus, Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau announced he will resign from office once his ruling Liberal Party chooses its next leader.
I intend to resign as party leader, as Prime Minister, after the party selects its next leader through a robust, nationwide, competitive process. Last night, I asked the President of the Liberal Party to begin that process. This country deserves a real choice in the next election, and it has become clear to me that if I'm having to fight internal battles, I cannot be the best option in that election.
Trudeau has been facing heavy pressure to step down from within his party, especially as polls show that the ruling party faces a landslide loss in the next election. The Canadian leader said that it's difficult to lead the party going into the next election, given the internal battles.
As you all know, I am a fighter, and I am not someone who backs away from a fight, particularly when a fight is as important as this one is. But I have always been driven by my love for Canada, by my desire to serve Canadians, and by what is in the best interest of Canadians. And Canadians deserve a real choice in the next election. And it has become obvious to me with the internal battles that I cannot be the one to carry the Liberal standard into the next election.
In the meantime, the country's parliament will be suspended until March 24th, while a new party leader is chosen. The White House on Monday responded to the announcement with White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre calling Trudeau a friend of the United States during his years as the Canadian leader, who worked closely with the U.S. on many issues facing the two countries and the world. She said President Joe Biden appreciates Trudeau's commitment to protecting North America from geopolitical threats and his work to keep the region economically competitive. U.S. President-elect Donald Trump, on the other hand, brought up the idea of Canada joining the U.S. as a 51st state and the benefits it could bring. Taken to Truth Social following Trudeau's announcement, Trump said if Canada merged with the U.S., there will be no tariffs, and it would also be safe from the threat of the Russian and Chinese ships that are constantly surrounding them. Trudeau was the Liberal Party leader for 11 years and Prime Minister for 9. As well as mounting issues including Trump's tariff threats and declining public opinion polls, many pundits see his resignation as choosing to jump before he's pushed out ahead of the general election later this year. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
In other news, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy says his military has inflicted much damage against Russian forces in the Kursk region. In a posting on his social media platform, he highlighted 5 months since the start of Ukraine's sudden incursion into Russia's Kursk region, adding that Russia had suffered some 38,000 casualties in this area alone, with 15,000 of those victims killed. Mr. Zelenskyy also thanked those who remain committed to supporting Ukraine's cause against Russian invasion. A new set of Korean words have been included in the Oxford English Dictionary as perhaps proof of the continued clout of the country's culture beyond its national borders. Our Iuni tells us what they are.
Do any of these words sound familiar? 달고나, 형, 노래방, 막내, 찌개, 떡볶이, and 판소리. These 7 Korean words were newly added to the Oxford English Dictionary in its latest update in December, according to the dictionary's website on Tuesday. The addition of these Korean words further highlights the global rise of Hallyu, the Korean wave, which was itself one of 26 words added to the dictionary in 2021. 달고나 in particular became widely known through the hit Netflix series Squid Game. 달고나 is a candy made from melted sugar, typically sold by street vendors in the form of a flat disc, with a simple shape such as a heart or star curved on its surface. Other additions include 형, meaning older brother, and 막내, which refers to the youngest person in a family or group. The dictionary provides an example of how the term is used to indicate the younger members of a K-pop group. Another addition is 노래방, a Korean term for a karaoke room where people sing songs in private. Also included is 찌개, a type of Korean stew made with broth and various ingredients like seafood, meat, or vegetables, with varieties such as 된장찌개 and kimchi찌개. The popular Korean dish 떡볶이 was also added. 떡볶이 consists of small cylindrical rice cakes cooked in a spicy gochujang sauce, typically served as a snack or street food. Lastly, 판소리 refers to a traditional Korean narrative musical performance by a solo singer accompanied by a drummer. Professor Jiun Kier, a professor at Oxford University and a Korean language consultant for the Oxford English Dictionary, explained to Yonhap News how K-pop and K-dramas have introduced many Korean words to English speakers. And words that are widely used, referenced, or discussed in English-speaking communities with evidence of their usage preserved in text are included in the dictionary. She highlighted how viewers of Squid Game learned that the term 형, or older brother, is used to refer to someone who is not necessarily a blood relative. She also said that the number of Korean words added to the Oxford English Dictionary is expected to keep growing, with words like 아줌마, meaning middle-aged woman, and 빙수, which is a shaved ice dessert, possibly to be on the list next year. 이은희, Arirang News.
And over in Las Vegas, this year's Consumer Electronics Show will officially open doors to the public come Tuesday local time. Now, for those of you who cannot be there, we share a preview earlier offered to the press. Our correspondent Moon Hye-ryun was there.
This is the end of the beginning. Behind me are the masses of people filing out from the opening keynote speech a day before the biggest tech event of the year. And with the speech having been given by Nvidia's Jensen Huang, it's no surprise that artificial intelligence remains a central theme at this year's CES.
Generative artificial intelligence was the central technology on display during Huang's presentation as he unveiled Nvidia's newest, fastest chip. The RTX Blackwell chips in a demonstration showed real-time graphic generation of a video game in detailed high definition. But Huang went on to discuss the endless possibilities of generative AI outside of images and sounds.
We can understand amino acids, we can understand physics. We understand them, we can translate them, and generate them.
On top of graphic generation, Huang introduced a new AI model to train robots and autonomous vehicles. AI is also expected to take a leap this year in providing more personalized experiences across a range of different appliances. An increasingly significant portion of the tech consumer pie now consists of the digitally native Generation Z, meaning that there is now a bigger drive for tech to be aligned with their values, which includes sustainability. On the other end of the spectrum, technology centered around senior care is also booming with more personalized experiences across a range of different appliances.
Yeah, and I think it's about this idea of AI integration in the next generation of consumer hardware transforms devices like Samsung smartphones with Galaxy AI or HP laptops with their companion on board, LG TVs.
And kicking off the series of press conferences a day before CES, LG Electronics showcased its vision to achieve exactly that, under the slogan, less artificial, more human. Demonstrations of LG's generative AI-powered solutions such as ThinQ On showed how it uses sensors to monitor user behavior and control devices around the home. It goes beyond personalization to what LG has dubbed affectionate intelligence. To create seamless AI-powered spaces, LG has partnered with international companies such as Microsoft, as well as renowned figures such as entertainer and entrepreneur will.i.am.
And this collaboration between LG and FYI can be summed up in one word, 2 syllables, abracadabra. And in Aramaic, it means I create as I speak. And it's no longer just a word, it's real.
Another South Korean tech giant, Samsung Electronics, redefined its slogan of AI for all to meet the needs of different lifestyles, such as single-person families, those with pets, and so on.
Today, I want to redefine what home means to us and introduce our roadmap for home AI. For the past 10 years, we have led innovation in the home, making your home smarter with every step forward.
The firm also addressed concerns surrounding AI and user data, claiming that its new NOC security system means that any data collected to personalize user experience can only be accessed by the user even if the server is compromised. Other than in the home, Samsung Electronics integrates AI in laptops, smartwatches, and rings, combining this year's tech trend of personalized technology coordinated across various hardware to provide an uninterrupted user experience. 문혜련, Arirang News, Las Vegas.
Back here in Korea, South Korea saw its highest sum of foreign direct investment pledges in the year 2024. Now, data from the Trade Ministry shows the country garnered some $34 billion of FDI commitments last year, up 5.7% on year. Now, annual amounts have been on the rise since the year 2021. According to the ministry, advanced industries secured the greatest investments with an almost 50% surge in semiconductors and an over 200% jump in the bio sector. Global investment banks are projecting a sluggish economic growth for South Korea in 2025, according to the Korea Center for International Finance. Earlier on this Tuesday, the average real GDP growth rate forecast for Korea this year by 8 global investment banks is 1.7%, down from November's 1.8%. What's more, this latest projection is lower than the Bank of Korea's 1.9%, as well as that of the Korean government, which stands at 1.8%. JP Morgan shared the lowest outlook for South Korea, citing worsening domestic consumption amid much political uncertainty as the main factor behind its gloomy projection.
This is The World Now, bringing you the latest stories from around the globe. We begin with news from the Vatican. On Monday, Pope Francis appointed an Italian nun to lead the dicastery for Institutes of Consecrated Life and Societies of Apostolic Life. This marks the first time a woman has been appointed to head a major Vatican department. Sister Simona Brambilla was named as the new prefect of the Vatican office, succeeding Brazilian Cardinal João Braz de Aviz, who had held the position since 2011. Throughout his 11 years as Pope, Francis has emphasized the importance of women's leadership within the Vatican, appointing many women to key roles across the various departments. However, this is the first time a woman has been appointed to lead a major office of the Holy See, the internationally recognized sovereign entity that oversees the global Catholic Church. Sister Brambilla will serve as the department's prefect, while Spanish Cardinal Angel Fernandez Artimi has been named as pro-prefect. The Vatican has not yet provided details on how the two will divide their responsibilities. We go to Russia next, where more than 30 dolphins have been found dead after oil from 2 sunken Russian tankers spilled into the Black Sea. According to the Russian Delta Dolphin Rescue and Research Center, 32 dolphins died due to oil leaking from the tankers that sank 3 weeks ago. The tankers went down on December 15th in the Kursk Strait between southern Russia's Krasnodar region and Crimea during severe weather conditions. Following the spill, oil traveled approximately 250 kilometers to the coast of Sevastopol, prompting authorities in the Russian-controlled Crimean Peninsula to declare a state of emergency. The research center said that since the emergency declaration, 61 marine mammals were found dead. Analysis of the carcasses suggests that 29 died before the oil spill, while the other deaths are likely linked to the contamination. Heavy rainfall in the UK on Monday prompted the declaration of major incidents in the Midlands region. In Leicestershire, firefighters responded to hundreds of calls, rescuing 59 individuals from flood-related emergencies. In Lincolnshire, 50 children had to be rescued from a school after surrounding roads were inundated. Nearly 200 flood warnings have been issued across England and Wales. That includes a severe warning for the River Soar in Leicestershire on Monday evening, indicating a potential danger to life and that large-scale evacuations may be necessary. Media giant Walt Disney Company and U.S. streaming provider Fubo TV on Monday announced their agreement to merge their online live TV businesses. Disney revealed that the new virtual multi-channel video programming distributor company, combining Hulu Plus Live TV with Fubo TV, will serve a combined subscriber base of 6.2 million in North America. Disney plans to launch a wider variety of programming packages and offer more attractive price points following the merger. The company also aims to integrate Fubo TV's strength in sports, streaming with Disney's networks, including ESPN, to create an all-new sports-focused service. 윤세영, Arirang News.
This morning, the temperature plummeted to -6 degrees Celsius in Seoul, which was about 8 degrees lower than yesterday. With the wind chill, the temperature fell as low as -10 degrees. This cold spell will get worse this week. On Thursday, the strongest cold wave of this winter will come around, with temperatures plunging to -12 degrees in the morning in Seoul. Snow has been falling mainly on the west coast of Jeollado provinces and Jeju Island. These snow clouds will gradually spread to Chungcheongnam-do province, southwestern part of Gyeonggi-do province, and western part of Gyeongsang-nam-do province. Tomorrow morning, Chuncheon will start off at -12 degrees, Busan at 0 degrees. Daily highs will move up to -2 degrees in Seoul and Chuncheon. There is a possibility of the first cold wave warning of the winter in Seoul on Thursday. That's all for Korea. Here are the weather conditions around the world.
Those are the headlines at this hour here in South Korea. Coming up right after this break is our daily panel session. Do stay with us.
How to survive in Korea. Cafes. Step 1. Find a seat. Before ordering, find a seat. Laptop ID, smartphone, jacket, whatever that can mark your territory. But no bites. It's a little too big. Step 2. Pick up. We do not ask or call your name. We call out, B69번 고객님. The buzzer will vibrate when your order is ready at the counter. Wait, got your straw? Keep the top of the wrapper on. Doing this is more hygienic. Step 3. Cafe etiquette. If you need to use your laptop, find a seat next to a socket. No extra charge for using electricity. But if you're staying over 3 hours, how about ordering another drink or dessert? Step 4. Last bite standing. There's a mysterious custom in Korea. The last bite standing. When there's about 1 bite left of that cake, nobody will go for it. You might be tempted, but don't be hasty. Right before you get up, take the last piece saying that you simply can't waste food, or just leave it. It will save a few calories. Did you survive at the cafe? Did someone behind the counter catch your eye? Go for the same drink every single day.
오늘도 아이스 말차 라떼 드실 거죠?
You might make an impression.
Hi, Chef Ryan Phillips here. Today we're going to make solgori jongol, or oxtail stew. Perfect to stay warm on a cold winter weekend.
Investigators are seeking a second attempt to arrest President Yoon Suk-yeol following a failed first attempt last Friday at his residential compound that saw his security officials engage in a dramatic standoff with anti-corruption and police authorities. We have more on Press Perspective today. Hello and welcome to Press Perspective for this Tuesday, January 7th here in Seoul. I'm Min Sun-hee. Anti-corruption authorities are seeking another attempt at arresting the president for questioning over his imposition of martial law, while his security officials ramp up protection around his residential compound for a second potential confrontation with investigators and the police. For more on this, I have Chloe Bognon with French news network France 24 here in the studio. Chloe, welcome back and Happy New Year.
Hello, Happy New Year to you too.
I also have Hwang Jung-uk, the head of Law Quant, joining our talk virtually. Mr. Hwang, it's an absolute pleasure to have you online.
Thank you for having me.
Right, we will start here in the studio. Chloe, an arrest warrant for the president failed to bear fruit with its week-long deadline coming to an end this past Monday, I believe. How is the foreign media covering this particular failure, and what is the focus of their coverage now?
Yeah, so like most of the foreign medias, have been kind of covering it live on Friday as it happened. So the main point that was taken as the responsibility for the failure is the standoff with presidential security. That was nearly 6 hours long standoff, and then the anti-corruption policy authorities couldn't get in to deliver the mandate and to the warrant and to get Yoon Suk-yeol into custody. So what they said is they were outnumbered. So the officials were about 20 people first when they entered around 8 in the morning into the presidential residency, and then they were at the end 150 people, but it was still not enough because they were facing around 200 people from the presidential security teams. What the CIO, so the corruption investigation office, said is that Yoon Suk-yeol refused the legal process, and they've been saying that they were a bit like disappointed with this on Friday evening, and they say also that there is kind of a general defiance from the president on this whole legal process. His lawyers have said that they wanted to counteract on it. It's been rejected for the moment, but there's been efforts on the side of the president to stall any progress on that specific arrest or even just interrogation, because he was supposed to go for questioning 3 times. It didn't come, and that's why the warrant was implemented. Now, what's the medias, like foreign medias, are really interested in is mostly the political division that seems to be really happening in the society, and that we can see now in front of the presidential residency with the pro-Yoon against the anti-Yoon, both of them like 400 meters away from each other, like having protests, staying there. And there's been also very specific interest on the Stop the Steal motto, because it's a direct reference to Donald Trump, who's coming back into office. So it's been interesting for both like the English-speaking media, but I said no, that even French medias have been quite interested to see this kind of implementation of Donald Trump motto in Korean pro-Yoon protest. And finally, there's also an interest on what is to come. So, because if Yoon Suk-yeol is arrested, it will be like first into South Korean history for a sitting president to be arrested.
Right, indeed. Mr. Hwang, this is probably the first time that we've actually had a pundit on our program to share with us the legal aspects of the battle that President Yoon Suk-yeol faces. That being said, following failure to detain the president, the anti-corruption agency sought to entrust the police with the execution of the warrant to arrest the president. His legal team, of course, cried foul, and the police authorities themselves also shared doubts. Ultimately, as was the case last Friday, both the agency and the police will jointly seek to execute the arrest warrant. Mr. Hwang, how do you respond to rampant criticism against the anti-corruption agency with regard to its handling of the investigation thus far?
I think they were not really up to the task in the first instance on Friday. I mean, they gave various excuses for why they failed to execute the warrant. Just a couple of the top police officers who are with the anti-corruption authorities, prosecutors on the ground, actually wanted to apprehend some of these presidential security details, top officials, in order to sort of overcome the resistance. I think the prosecutors themselves were a little scared about escalating the situation. They decided to walk away. I think after really facing the severe popular backlash, both from the people as well from the National Assembly, I think the prosecutors and the anti-corruption agency, at least as far as they have made statements before the National Assembly committee today, it seems that they have kind of refound their courage, or at least fortified their courage. So hopefully we'll see a different outcome the second time around.
Right. And in the meantime, Mr. Hwang, rival political parties, they also remain locked in dispute about the legality of the arrest and search warrant issued against the president. Could you walk us through their conflicting stances?
Well, we could actually go through various legal arguments that are raised by both the ruling party as well as President Yoon's the defense team that is actually mounting a case right in front of the Constitutional Court, which the hearing actually will take place tomorrow. I think one thing to keep in mind is that it's not really a compelling argument that the ruling party or the presidential defense team is actually mounting. I think it's more of a political argument. Even the ruling party is very, very careful to say that they are not really supporting martial law, but they're still supporting President Yoon. In fact, in front of the presidential residence, about 44 out of 108 ruling party lawmakers, we're seeing the footage right now, showed up in front of the presidential residence to show support for President Yoon. So it's a very difficult tightrope balancing act that the ruling party is trying to walk. That is, they're still trying to show support for President Yoon because there's a sizable minority of Koreans still supporting President Yoon, but they don't want to be coming out and saying, hey, we supported martial law. That would probably be a death knell for their election prospects. So they're trying to have cake and eat it too at the same time.
Right, I see. Chloe, the head of President Yoon security team, actually, he's been garnering quite a bit of foreign media attention in the wake of the dramatic standoff with anti-corruption investigators last Friday, which, like you mentioned, lasted almost 6 hours. Could you tell us a bit more about him?
Yeah, so Park Sung-jun is the head of the presidential security. He does report directly to the president, Yoon Suk-yeol. So on Friday, after quite some time, the investigators were able to get to him, presented him with the arrest warrant, and he said that it was not possible to enter the residency. So he's already been blocking in the same way some probes and some requests from the teams beforehand when they wanted to search only the grounds, not to arrest the president. But what he's saying is these places, so either the presidential office or the presidential residency, are under the state secret. So there is some matters of state here that cannot be open to probes, and it's rooted in the law. This is kind of defense of saying you cannot come and probes into this kind of places. But the investigators have said before that because it's about insurrection grounds, this is not supposed to be opposed to them. So he's also being asked to come for questioning by the police. So he was supposed, because he blocked the arrest, he was supposed to come on Saturday. Obviously, he explained that because of the tensions, he could not leave his job even for a few moments. He was also supposed then to come today, this morning. He didn't because then that's the presidency security service that said in a press report that he didn't have legal representation yet, so he was not going to come for questioning. So next deadline will be at the end of this week, on Friday. So let's see if it goes for the summoning or not. There's also another thing that's been interesting, the foreign media, is the service itself, the Presidential Security Service. That's been quite controversial in its history. It was placed under the direct command of the president during the military rules of the 70s, 80s. And it's interesting to note that the predecessor of Mr. Park was actually Kim Yong-hun, who was in September appointed as the defense minister and who is now under the same probe as Yoon Suk-yeol for the insurrection charge regarding the martial law.
Right, indeed. Mr. Hwang, investigators here, they've threatened to prosecute the president's security team for obstruction of justice. How plausible is this threat?
Well, I mean, if the prosecutors in the anti-corruption agency have the courage to carry it out, it's a very much a legal, a legit legal threat. I mean, the warrant is valid. It was issued by the judge in the Western District of the Court. And presidential office, president's lawyers raised objections, but the judge overruled objections. And the security force is interfering with a validly issued warrant, which means that it's a fairly clear cut of obstruction of justice. So if the prosecutors and police go up and with force and say that you make way or get arrested, I don't think there is much of an argument that he has other than actually resisting with force. That would actually escalate. But I think the second time around, the CIO should better come in with a superior number to make sure that such a confrontation does not take place.
Right, and speaking about the CIO, the antitrust agency, Mr. Huang, the president's legal team, for its part, has filed complaints against some 150 investigators for trespassing. Again, how does his defense team have a valid argument there, a valid legal argument?
Well, let me put it this way. There's a kind of a joke among American lawyers when both law and facts are against you, all you do is you pound hard on the table and shout as loud as you can. I think that's basically what you're seeing is that version of events taking place. President Yoon's lawyers don't really have a very good argument to make. So they're basically saying that, hey, everybody else is wrong, we are right, so therefore we are not going to do anything that the judge tells us to. That's basically what their argument is coming down to.
Right, I see. Chloe, moving forward, what is the latest then with regard to the impeachment trial against President Yoon Suk-yeol?
Yeah, so the Constitutional Court has been doing the first hearing with 8 judges. It was last Thursday. There were 6 members until now. 2 more have been appointed recently by the by the acting president. And so the court now meets the 7 members quorum to be able to take decisions. And for the impeachment to be considered valid, it would need 6 votes out of the 8 people. So they have been saying that they want this like the judgment on Yoon Suk-yeol impeachment to be going fast. So it's their priority. There were other orders that were supposed to be given. They are on hold, and they will just focus on this specific one first, because they're saying it's true. That is the most important thing to do right now for the country, to be able to get back into a balance in political issues. So the preparatory hearings are closed, and now the very official hearings are starting. The first one will be on the 14th of this month, and that will be 5 sessions in total, and they will end at the end of the beginning of February, because that will be the 4th of February. So that doesn't mean that there will be a judgment at the end. It's just the first hearings are going to happen there. There was also a question asked by the legal team of the National Assembly. They were saying maybe we should drop the insurrection charges against Yoon Suk-yeol in the impeachment process, just to speed up the process a little. But the court has been answering, saying that they are not going to change any of the charges, and they will regard and take into consideration everything, even if it means going a bit like for a longer time. From the defense team then, we also heard that President Yoon Suk-yeol will be there and will be giving his position in the right time. So there's no specific date, but most of the people are thinking that it will be there on the first day, like on the 14th. Anyway, he's supposed to come, he's required to come, but even if he doesn't show up, the audience, like the session will still go on, and the judgment will still continue, even in his absence. And finally, there is also a deadline for the Constitutional Court, because on April 18th, 2 of the judges will see the end of their mandate. But those 2 judges are nominated by the president himself, and it's said that probably the acting president won't be able to nominate anyone, because it would be further than his field of action. So there is a need for the Constitutional Court to try and wrap up everything before that date, because then, if not, we'll be back to the question of can they make the judgment with only 6 members?
Right, before the 18th of April then.
Exactly.
Mr. Huang, what are some of the main points of contention at the upcoming impeachment trial against President Yoon Suk-yeol?
Well, what we are seeing from the president's defense team is a kitchen sink approach. They're basically bringing all legal arguments, however outlandish they may be, trying to stick to something. And not only that, it's just not arguments that are interesting. I think they're doing whatever tactics they can employ to delay things. One thing to keep in mind is that, as was just pointed out, in April, we have potentially 2 justices whose terms do end. So actually, the Constitutional Court might actually come to an impasse if that happens, if the proceedings run past April. 2, another item to keep in mind is sort of all the trials that opposition leader Lee Jae-myung is undergoing. And one thing that the ruling party lawmakers and politicians are obsessing over is that somehow, whatever we do, we need to stop Lee Jae-myung from becoming next president. At this point, he's the front runner. I think that nobody's doubting that. So a lot of delaying tactics is taking place. And because of that, we're hearing some really outrageous arguments made by president's lawyers. One thing, for example, in the hearing day, one of the lawyers stated that the martial law declaration was a prank, or was like a prank. And I mean, to me, that was a shocking statement, considering that if you look at martial law decree and the suspension of all the civil liberties that President Yoon declared on December 3rd, how would any lawyers say that that was a prank was really beyond my imagination. But that is kind of the arguments that are being presented by president's lawyers at this point.
Right, I see. And the official actual trial begins on the 14th of January. That would be next Tuesday for a total of 5 sessions. As you mentioned earlier, that will end on the 4th of February. That is keeping in mind, of course, the Lunar New Year holiday, right? Chloe, we have some time left. So let's touch upon another rather tragic event here in South Korea. Do we have any updates with regard to the plane crash of Jeju Air at Muan International Airport with regard to the investigation behind the cause of the crash?
Yeah, so the investigation on site has ended. So the searches on site has ended. Now they will go for more in-depth probes on, for example, the cockpit and the engines. So that's part of the main important point of interest for the probes. On Saturday, there was a voice file that was created from the voice data, like in the cockpit voice data recorder from the black box, and it's going to be now analyzed. And the other black box, the one with the data flights, that's too damaged to be extracted here in Korea, has been going back to the U.S. to one of the specialists with the U.S. teams that came here to help South Korea, and they are going to assess if it's possible to get the data out of it or not, or if it's too bad damage even for the specialized team for the data extractions. There is also the special inspection on the Korean airlines who are using the same type of plane as the one that crashed. So it was supposed to be over, but the government said they have not finished yet. So they are pushing it until Friday, so this Friday, in the end of the week, to make sure that they can inspect all the 101 plane, the Boeing plane, that's all the same same type as the one that crashed from Jeju Air. Another thing that's been investigated too is the navigation safety facilities in all the airports here in Korea, because I don't know if you remember, but the localizer that is at the end of the runway was kind of in the spotlight on one airport because it was a concrete wall. And so now there's inspection of all the airports here in Korea to be sure that they are all into the international airport safety rules. And finally, one bit of a sad part 2 of investigation is that the government now also have to investigate on malicious posts that have been insulting the bereaved family of the victim. So the government said that online there's already been 126 posts that have been reported, and so they're also investigating on the authors of those posts to try and bring a legal response to that.
Right, some very callous comments by some online people with regard to the tragedy at Muan International Airport. Mr. Hwang, what potential legal repercussions does the head of Jeju Air look to face?
Well, we'll have to be somewhat patient. As was mentioned just now, the black boxes will be sent to the U.S. for further analysis, and my understanding is that it takes up to 6 months by the NTSB to do a detailed analysis of this data, so which means that in order to have a full accounting of what happened on that fateful day, I think we are not really going to get answers this month or next month. So I think we'll have to be fairly patient and careful before reaching any conclusions. One thing that I think the Korean government will be looking at is the localizer concrete wall that is something that the Korean government can look at. See who actually designed it, what was the thinking behind it, were any regulations were in violation. I mean, certainly it contributed to the accident, so that is something we can look into. But before the overall full picture of the accident emerges from the detailed investigation, I think it's a little too early to jump to any conclusion where there will be any legal repercussions for Jeju Air.
Right, for sure. So we'll have to wait to understand the cause of the crash first. All right, Mr. Hwang, thank you so much for your insights today.
Thank you very much.
And Chloe, as always, thank you very much for your time and your thoughts.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Right, well, that brings us to the end of Tuesday's edition of Press Perspective. We return same time tomorrow with a look at the economic headwinds here and beyond. Do join us then.